In this video, we'll configure the Cogent DataHub to act as an OPC UA client to a UA server running on the same computer, and also as a client to a server running on a network computer. Here's the OPC Foundation demo server, which we're going to use for our local UA server connection. After starting Cogent DataHub, we right-click and select Properties from the icon in the system tray. From here we click on OPC UA. We need to make sure that the Act as a UA Client checkbox is selected, and then we click on Add to configure a new connection to the UA server. We're provided with a connection name, but you can edit it if you want. And to connect to the UA server, we need to define the address of the server, which is known as the endpoint URL. Some UA servers register with the local discovery server to publish their endpoint URLs. You can look in this list here to see if your server does this. You can see in the list we have endpoints for the DataHub because it also runs as a UA server by default. But there are no endpoints listed for the Foundation test server. That's okay. It just means we have to manually enter the endpoint here. So I'll go back to the UA server and copy the OPC TCP endpoint, and we can come back and paste it into the DataHub here. Now I'm going to leave the security policy and use a token type as the default settings, which means we're going to run an anonymous unencrypted TCP connection. This will probably be the most common way to connect to a server when the server and client are running on a secure plant network. If you want to make a connection using the encryption and authentication options offered by your UA server, then this is where you would make those selections. We'll look at making a secure connection in a later video. So now, let's test our connection. This shows we made a successful connection to the server. If there were any issues, then a message will be displayed here and also in the event log. Our online documentation has a list of error messages you might see when testing your connection. Now we can select data points or nodes we want to read from the UA server. By default, we're set up to manually select these nodes from the server, and we'll look at doing that in a moment. But for this connection, I'm going to read all of the points from the server. Now I'll configure a local DataHub domain name that will hold the data points we read from the server. I'll call this connection local UA. Once we've done that, then we click OK and then click Apply to save the changes. You can see the status of our connection shows we are running. And if we click on View Data, we can see the data from our UA server updating in our local UA data domain. So that was easy. Now let's connect to a second UA server on a network machine. I'll come back and create another client connection by clicking Add. This time I'm going to connect to a DataHub UA server running on a Windows 8 virtual machine. I'll select my target computer, known as the discovery domain, from this list. I'll select this one here. If your computer doesn't show up in the list, you can try typing the Windows computer name or the IP address of the other machine. And if that doesn't work, then just try entering the fully qualified endpoint URL like we did for the first connection. Now I can see the endpoints offered by the remote DataHub server here. I'll select the OPC TCP protocol and then we'll click to test that connection. You can see we've connected successfully to the remote computer. But before I move on, I want to show you one other thing. If I go back and select HTTP as the protocol, then do the connection test again, we can see that the connection test will eventually time out and fail. And there's an error message in the connection window here, which will also appear in the event log. Usually this is because there's a firewall on the server computer that is not allowing incoming connection on the port numbers associated with the HTTP and HTTPS protocols. In another video, we'll show you how to add an inbound firewall rule to resolve this. For now, I'll just set the protocol back to OPC TCP so we can make that connection. Because this is a network connection, it's usually best to manually select the nodes you want to read from the UA server. So let's click on the Configure Nodes button. We can pick single nodes, but to make things easier, if we click Select Only Value Type Nodes and then make a group selection like this, then only the nodes with point values will be selected. This helps to reduce the overhead on the server and also reduce load on the network. And so I will close that, and now we'll configure a different domain to hold the new data. I'll call this one Remote UA. Once we've done that, again we can click OK and click Apply. And you can see our status shows we're connected and running. And again, if we look in View Data, we can see the data from our Remote UA server is updating in the Remote UA data domain. So in this video, we were able to connect to a local UA server by manually entering the endpoint URL. We were also able to connect to the DataHub UA server running on a network computer by selecting the discovery domain and then the appropriate endpoint from the drop-down list. These are probably the most common configurations for making client connections to a UA server when you're working on a trusted network. In other videos, we'll look at how to configure a secure client connection using encryption and authentication. And as I mentioned before, we'll look at how to configure a DataHub UA server to accept incoming HTTP and HTTPS connections by adding a Windows firewall rule. For more details on the DataHub properties not covered in this video, please refer to our documentation available at cogentdatahub.com, or you can contact your local DataHub reseller for help.